Hi, everybody. Monday on Astral Oracles. I'm very happy to be with you. We're looking into soul contracts in this video, and I'm going to phone up an archangel. I think it might be Gabriel who wants to come through um, to look into how we discern our paths and how we figure out what is laid out for us and join up with the sense of purpose and alignment with our true nature, because that fills us with joy. Thank you so much to everybody who sent me a donation after I shared my plight. So Pat and Tara and Patrice, thank you so much for donating, and to the two of you who booked sessions, thank you so much for that too, and to my patrons, Mandy, Carly, Laura, Laurie, Tony. Thank you so much for the support. Natalie, Suzanne, who's given me a lot through the years. Thank you so much. It really helped me on the path, and that is, of course, in and of itself kind of a part of the soul contract, to be pushed into these places where we are usually a little uncomfortable. And for instance, for me, learning that it's a good thing when things aren't working to then go tell people that, hey, things aren't working. And if you could give me a little leeway, or help me out, that would be awesome. That's simply something that I'm learning, and that I'm grateful to be able to practice, even though I shy away from it unless I'm forced to it, because that is the thing with soul contracts in so many of the circumstances that we are brought up into, that they are meant to push us into the exact experiences that we often don't want to have. And related to money and yours truly, for instance, I'm aware that if I was making ends meet, I'd hold up here and just get into my own little mystical loops, because I don't mind sitting around reading Shiva ecstatic poetry, or looking into the Rhineland mystics, or whatever. I could spend a lifetime doing that, but I do kind of sense that there is someone, something, like call it the great and the sacred chow, or the great like the great flow, or the magnet at the end of time, or the Bing bag, as I like to refer to it. It's all the at the end of time, all the Bings, they get wrapped up in a bag, and then we go again back to the Big Bang. Like whether or not what it is, right? We are kind of being pushed and attracted, and shoved into these experiences, these flows, these places, and it's, you can almost sense, and I think this has come up in some channelings, that people who are awakening and activating and connecting to these energies, and holding a lot of high vibrational energies, that's kind of raising the collective slightly. And I know a lot of you guys out there are, that it's almost as if time or the divine is kind of sewing this energy network tighter and tighter around the planet, so the grid becomes activated, and that's beginning to stir and awaken the collective. What I'm picking up is also for people who are perhaps not experiencing these stirrings through a spiritual filter, but are more engaged in the real world, that they're also experiencing a lot of emotional shifts and turmoil. So I think also that the 2024 is kind of having an energy that's pushing a lot of us out there, and to confront that. And I also have the good turn to live in a very secure, affluent place, that kind of feels safe, where it's been possible for me to then have all these breakdowns. And at the same time, Protestant culture is rather unique in the fact that it doesn't have any places where it can really place these religious nut jobs, such as myself, because usually, society sort of cool. You can go in a monastery, or you can sit there, or you can be a mendicant preacher, or whatever. This happens to people, and we kind of know how to handle it. But this process that's been happening to me is happening to a lot of people out there. I know you recognize that, right? That it like this kind of spirit, whatever it is, um, this weird seed of light that once it gets into the system, begins to push itself out and connect to the world. It's gotten into us, and of course, once there isn't the societal structures for us to fit into, the only really a real option is to either retract completely from society, or to kind of create those structures, which is socially disruptive. Um, so I think that the entire sort of the revolutionary wave that seems to be stirring across the planet, and moving into to all the scientific fields where we're crunching, miniaturizing, learning a lot about like these weird spaces between technology and biology, and in the sort of economic and political spheres, where we're also coming to a place where we have to rework and remodel um, the things that are in place, and no longer work for us. So the thing here is, of course, that we do this by following our soul contract. That the idea is that you can't save everybody, and you can't be everybody, but by following that specific trajectory that's laid out for you, you are sort of moving along with the great everflow, the great Tao, like that great movement, that emanation, that is you, and that is everything, the Holy Spirit that gets to learn itself as such through you. So if you, for instance, remember the Matrix trilogy, I didn't watch the new one, but then like this juxtaposition between uh, like the program Mr. Smith and Neo, or the one, because it's the tension between that empty shell that's turning everything into a model of itself, and it doesn't really know anything but extraction to shut down into an entropic system where everything is like itself, and that's supposed to that flow that expresses itself as a reprogramming of the matrix itself, the code itself, the universe itself. And that's what Holy Ghost is doing as it's moving through you. And the more we can connect to this perspective, the more we step into these more joyful, bright, exuberant realities. And I can like recently I've been very much in re-entering an ecstatic phase of awakening, and that's been joyful, though it's kind of been matched with then all these practical crashes and 0 points. But that's to say that of course this too shall pass, but there are deep emotional rewards also in coming into this sense of flow connection to yourself. So with that, I'll step aside, hoping that those weavings and bobbings, meanderings, they served you, and then I'll call in Archangel. I think it'll be Metatron. I was kind of on the fence with Gabriel or Metatron. I think it'll actually be Metatron. So let's let's speak to him. Much love, guys. Yes, the unconditional love of the heavens and of the sublime unity of everything that lies behind, under, above, besides everything that you experience as a supportive structure of love, as a supportive structure of connection. I extend this to you. I, the Archangel Metatron, I speak to you this day on the matter of soul contracts, on the matter of understanding what you laid out and wrote for yourself before coming into this life. We could even say before coming into several lifetimes. There are different layers of these soul contracts, but often you will find that there are resonance patterns within certain lifetimes, so that there are complementary scripts written for these lifetimes. You may be exploring down in another corridor of the time space different themes that are radically juxtaposed and in a sense of echoed and shadowed vibrational mirroring of the experiences that you are having in your life at this moment. So, for that very reason, understand that your soul contract will necessarily be filled with imbalances as much as you are imbued with an instinct to seek harmony, to seek this sense of completion, of having tensions and dissonances unite themselves, and to find these perfect points where they no longer stir themselves. As much as you have that, know that your soul contract in and of itself can be energetically thought of as an acceptance of certain frequencies that you have signed up to experience. So there are within this frequency range allowances for experiences to vary, to combine, and to reorder themselves. But they are embedded within wider frequency grids that you cannot fall out of without essentially breaking your incarnational contract. You, of course, call it a soul contract from your perspective. We could add that from the perspective of the heavens, it looks a lot more like an incarnational contract. So that is, the parameters are set up for how you will live. They are not set up for how you'll be a soul, because that is perfectly determined from this perspective. What we mean by that is that understand that there are certain limits to the experience that you are having as the specific human that you are right now. And if these limits are broken, that means that you will have to fall off and reincarnate as another being to continue these energetic lessons. Or you will have to step back into the energetic vibrancy that's mapped out for you. So often, many of you have your experiences of then dipping your toes in something that seems off or wrong or difficult, not correct for you. It can be something as basic as visiting a place that seems simply out of resonance for you personally. And it may have nothing to do with the quality of the place, but it may have something to do with the fact that you are discovering that there are certain frequencies, geographies that align with you, and certain things that do not. Some people are more suited for changing skies and passing winds, and some prefer the stillness and oppressive predictability of high temperatures. These senses, they are very much speaking to your configurations. So everything is energy, but energy always needs to have certain circuitries to run through. And these circuitries can only be expanded into certain capacities before they have to flip into new stages of wiring. So notice that this is also what happens to your technologies, that at some point you'll find the necessity to switch materials, to begin to use other types of materials to conduct energy, or to simply store your liquids or your household materials. So different needs have different prescriptions for what they can contain. And this is the same with your incarnational history. So at the moment, all of you who are here in this experience, this slice of time that I speak into, you are undergoing these circuitry expansions of the human body. See, the human body then has embedded within it different types of superconductive strains. You already know that these helixes can be activated to some degree, and some parts of it can then become again inhibited or deactivated. But more and more of it is coming online, and so more and more of these energy correspondences can move through your expanded physical circuitry. So many of you are also discovering what you have in previous times thought of as magic powers or cities or witchcraft. So these abilities to change reality, reset the energetic frameworks, let your own physical situation be a type of manifestation of your will, and seeing it change and reorder itself and reconfigure itself many times through this life. All of these are expansions of your circuitry, and all of it is a part of, as our friend here put it, this weaving of the light grid around the planet, this way that you participate in moving through the time space, heightening, restoring, and opening these frequencies. So, how does this all relate to the soul contract? Well, at this point, at this slice of time, your soul contracts are more defined in their personal purpose. That is, for those of you who tune into this, you may sense that there is a type of calling within you that is continually growing and being refined, and that has to do with connecting to your inner nature, and thereby also restoring the outer greater nature to its rightful flow and place, and the human connection to it to the rightful flow and place. But in the vibration of it, let's say the capacity for you to do this is broader than it usually is. So if you think of past times, go back 1,000 years, for instance, you will find that human incarnation, it in many ways had less purpose. That meant that what the person could actually explore in the human lifetime was less determined. There were less of these things that needed to happen, or these points that were put into the contract that you had to cross. But there was also less opportunity to move the very framework of the vibrational reality. So you can think of that you might have a very varied experience of being a farmer, but your experience to move away from being a farmer 1,000 years ago was in many ways diminished within an individual soul contract. It was often quite unlikely to happen. Whereas now you may sense that your need to cross through these certain synchronistic, deep experiences of energetic surrender, reemergence, reattunement, that these are deep within you. And in that way, it's often as if no matter how far you sling and verve off course, you'll be brought back into the pull of this magnetic attractor, this other side of the sacred Tao, of the sacred everflow of energy that is pulling you towards it. But you will also sense that your ability to shift what are the framework where I'm experiencing these great shifts through is larger. So you will, for instance, be able to be in many careers, be in many physical places, being in many relationships, both to yourself and to the outside world, and maybe even to entities such as myself. Well, we angels are fairly steady, but you may find that you, our friend here, many others, are connecting to a wide multitude of beings from the fairy realms, from the realms of adjacent realities, some of them slightly shocking to your nervous system, but all of them quite expansive to your experience. So notice again, to also tie this loop, that what I pointed to, dear humans, that in your soul contract, there is this sense that your circuitry can only expand into a certain extent before your body has to shift. Much of your body, much of your physical reality, much of these constraints are truly shifting. So, as more of the soul contract is being realized, that is, as more of the soul is able to make itself known in the incarnational experience, then reality around it is reshaped, and it becomes imbued with these qualities of light, of enjoyment, of inspiration, of ordered and meaningful experience, what you sometimes known as synchronicity. Though epiphany is also a nice word, isn't it? The fact that you are being reminded that there is a wider, greater intelligence, a network of life that stretches from one point of time to another, and from one point of the universe to another, that you are connected into, and at the center point of, as a center point of consciousness that's experiencing this. So the prismatic quality of your consciousness, your experience, your Merkaba that's creating all this, it is a center point, but it's embedded within this twirling dance of center points that are all within a wider structure that sees itself simultaneously through all these centers as one great mass coming to be an awakening to itself. That is the great ecstasy of being, and this is often the signature of when you get a glimpse of your soul contract, this joy of revelation. And then notice often what happens when you get a glimpse of ecstasy, which is an emotion from the high immaterial realms. That is, it can only be sustained continuously in worlds where the differences are very, very small. So you'll find down here that it's matched by the necessity to then move into the denser realms of matter and incarnation and uplift them. And this can often seem like a loss, a grief, a pressure, as something you're being pushed into and guided. But from our perspective, this is the very rapid molding of your material universe by spirit into a high, vibrant new world that's being birthed at the moment. And all of you are lending your hands to it. So know that just as birth can both be a physical, strong strain that the body needs to recover from, it is also the end of many things that had come to be as the framework's impulses, drives that brought about that birth. And now the birth is there, and life is remodeling itself around that new creation, around that new situation that is there. So at the moment, we can tell you that you are, as a collective, moving out of the early contractions. And you have now, as a collective of humans, realized that it's probably time that we actually accept that the baby is coming. And so notice that this sort of denial that maybe it's just kicking or acting up is short, it's leaving you gradually as a collective. But for those of you hearing this, and for many of those beings that you are connected to energetically and in your lives, notice that you are already very far in this process of giving birth to the new yous that will then act as the midwives for this great birth of the collective. And you might still feel very raw, very exposed, and quite lost as to what to do with this situation, with this new responsibility, with this new life of spirit and connection that you've been given, of meaning. But also know that there are deep instincts that are as deep as the maternal or parental instincts, and that these will activate themselves in your spiritual process, in your drives, in your flowering, in your opening of yourselves and opening of the world. And so this is a bloom, this is a flowering. This is the budding tree that opens up and gives fragrance to the air and beauty to everything. We hope, sense, and believe that this may have reached and comforted. some of you, many of you. We are aware that our transmissions here are also of an energetic character, and so we manage to touch and uplift the collective by being funneled through people in this way and being connected to people in this way. So we thank every one of you for holding the vibration of the heavens, for connecting to the light and for carrying it in the world. And we assure you that this expansion of yours, it is contractual, it is mapped out, it is purposeful, and it is right. So with our blessings and our unconditional love, I, the Archangel Metatron, on behalf of all of the heavens, I bid you farewell. Farewell, dear humans. I hope that served you. Much love out there, guys.